Good evening and welcome to the September 15th, 2020 Gilroy Central School District Board of Education meeting. Would you all please silence your cell phones and rise for the pledge? The Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on the agenda tonight we have public comment. I think we have just one public comment. Sure, I can read it. So we have one public comment from Lindsay Gianni. She wrote an email. Hello, first I'm very pleased with how the district has handled this year, especially for younger students. I think most, if not all, can agree that socialization and in-person instruction is vital for elementary-aged children. While COVID is still a real risk, I am glad you have weighed the options and looked at the situation as a whole. A concern I would like to address, if this is the appropriate forum, would be regarding transportation. My son, Tyler, is a new kindergarten student at Altamont, and his bus comes at 7:17 a.m. at a stop that is 0.24 miles from my house, down our street, up a hill to the corner on a busier road. The problem I have is that the bus drives past the corner of my street and stops at a stop sign where my child and another family live. The other family also has younger children, 5 and 6. I've emailed transportation and was told a stop would be made only if all the parents from the other stops agree. I was reminded that a kindergartner can walk 0.25 miles for their stop, and if the district no longer will stop at homes. I asked the driver and he said he would lose his job. What is being told to these drivers to make them think showing consideration will put their job at risk? I'm not asking for my child to get special treatment with door service, but simply ask for some common sense to come into play. Soon it will be dark at 7:17 a.m. with icy roads and snowbanks taller than my 5-year-old, and he will be asked to walk up a steep hill for his bus. Maybe I'm out of line, but if there's something more to this guideline, please let us know. From my point of view, I see it as a lack of compassion and consideration. Safety for our children should be top priority. COVID death rate for children 5 to 14 years old is 0.013%. Pedestrian motor vehicle death rate for children 4 to 8 years old is 0.188%. I kindly ask you consider our children and allow drivers to consideration and judgment when appropriate and make it a priority to address concerns of young children who have bus stops further than the corner of their own street. Thank you for your consideration. Yes.
I received another email. I did forward it to you in a way. I don't know if you can get into it. I just received it.
I'm not in there yet, but if you give me 1 minute. Okay. All right, so we have a second public comment. Thanks, Linda. This is from Solomon Elamian. Says, thank you for all the good job you are doing to prepare our children for the future despite the happenings in the world today. My question is regarding Chromebooks. Why is that this district is still unable to provide Chromebooks to those students that need one, giving one Chromebook per family? So those families that have 3 children will only receive one. This is very surprising since other school districts, even those that have small budgets, are providing devices for their students. Thank you, Solomon Elamian. Can we follow up on both of those, Marie, for, we can check with the bus stop one with Neil later, and then also detect the Chromebook with Demian?
Yep.
We'll follow up and then email them back. Okay. Thank you. Any others? Linda, no? All right, so I need a motion to accept the consent items for the minutes of August 11th, August 26th, the CPSC and CSC recommendations, and the personnel action minus the sports coach appointments, and the financials 1 and 2 minus the cash flow, number 3, which will move down to information.
Oh,
Barb, second. Judy?
no, I would like to question one of the items in there. Can we pull that one out? It's a quick question on personnel. So I don't want that to be,
Yes, we'll have a motion to discuss it.
yeah, okay, that's what I
So
was trying
second,
to do.
Judy? Okay. So any questions? Go ahead, Judy.
I noticed when looking over the personnel action that we seem to have a large number of bus drivers who are retiring or leaving service. Have we been able to get people to fill all those routes? It seems like this is a tough year for transportation.
Yes, the answer to the question, Judy, yes, we have. They have come late, in some cases like late last week. So yes, we are getting it done. We've had a decent pool of substitute bus drivers as well.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, we're getting it covered right now, and hopefully stay the course.
Okay, and that goes for the aides on the buses too?
Yes,
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, I'm okay with that now, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Ben?
Actually, I don't have a question.
No? Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0. Can I have a motion to discuss the fall 2020 coaching appointments? Judy? Second, Rebecca? Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Ben.
Will they be receiving their full stipend for the season?
So, the plan at this point, I mean, we don't know what the future brings, but at this point, the plan is to pay everyone 100%. Now, if something were to happen and we don't get very far down the season, we may have to talk about whether or not we still think that's appropriate or do some kind of prorating. But today, as of today, September 15th, it's planned to be 100%.
Will there be an accommodation or a written note in there that if the seasons are canceled, that we would have any other that they might have to, I mean, you don't want to make it nasty or scary, but if their season is canceled, it seems to me at least a portion of it should be able to not be paid. I know they do a lot of work getting ready for the season and all of that, but if they aren't coaching for the whole season.
Well, we would, I think, have to have a conversation with the Teachers Association because this is a contractual
Okay.
agreement at this point. I don't know, Regan, if you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, to Judy's point, we had this conversation last spring with the spring coaches, and there is a lot of work that is done in the off-season to prepare. It hasn't been a normal off-season, obviously, it hasn't been a normal anything, but certainly the off-season has not been normal. But we would definitely have to have a conversation with the GTA and with the board.
Other questions or comments? Ben?
Yeah, my only concern is just, fairness between how we treated the spring and how we're going to treat the fall. The spring did have their prep and they did have a few weeks of practice. And if it turns out that that's all our fall coaches get is this prep time and then a few weeks of practice whenever they can start, I think it's later this month, then we didn't pay the spring coaches full and we're going to pay the fall coaches full. And it's not so much that I have a problem with that, I just want it to be fair.
Well, tonight, we don't pay them till the end of the season, so we will be able to compare apples to oranges if we end up with a less than full season.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the conversation with GTA that we're referring to is not that they can say no and we already agreed to pay them, so, okay.
Again, as of today, because I'm a wishful, optimistic person.
I'm in agreement, Ben, like a prorate or something. Other questions or comments? Kelly?
Has there been more guidance on this conundrum between high or the medium risk sports are able to do this after school, however, you still need to spend
12 feet away from each other during PE, and they're probably not doing soccer in PE. Like, is there any other guidance from the governors, like, of why
Well,
it's okay to do those sports?
I can let Dave jump in on this too, but they're actually using two different sets of guidance. So
Okay.
there's one set of guidance for physical education during the school day, but for athletics and for recreation, they use a different set of guidance, both from the Department of Health, and the difference is 12 feet during the day and 6 feet in sports and recreation.
6
And the
feet.
why of that is a mystery.
So they expecting people to play soccer and field hockey and not come within 6, they're gonna have a bubble around them or something when they're playing? It's just strange to me.
Dave, do you want to
There's
jump
any-
in? And I don't know if we need to,
Hi, everybody. My name's Dave. I started as Director of Athletics in July, so I think a great time to start. Thank you, Alderman. So, yeah, we knew, obviously, the coaches were on the agenda to be approved tonight, so Marie and I had spoken. I wanted to make sure I was here tonight just to provide you guys with some updates and answer any questions that you have. And I will certainly speak to the guidance because we had our coaches meeting yesterday, and it was upwards of 2 hours long. We spoke a lot about guidance. It was a preseason coaches meeting that was more different than any other coaches meeting I've run in the past. So I guess I'll start with just some information because I know athletics has been a hot topic. If you've caught the news, even in the last couple days, some of our counterparts have made decisions different than the decisions that we made. But I want to just kind of keep everybody up to speed with that, starting with our league, the Suburban Council. The list of schools that, as of today, barring any changes, that have given the green light to low and moderate risk sports: Averill Park, Burnt Hills, CBA, Colony, Columbia, Niskayuna, Saratoga, Shaker, Shenendehowa, Troy, and Albany and Schenectady, who are varsity only this fall. There are 2 schools in our league that have only green-lighted low-risk sports, and that is Bethlehem and Ballston Spa, who made that announcement last night, I believe. I know there was news yesterday that 2 leagues in our section have decided to move fall sports to March 1st, and that is the Wasserin League and the WAC League. However, in addition to the Suburban Council, the Colonial Council, which is the league that I worked in prior to coming to Guilderland, they've green-lighted low and moderate risk sports, as has the Foothills Council and the Patroon Conference. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on that, just so we all kind of know where everybody stands, because I know, like I said, it's been, hitting the news cycle. And as far as guidance, I would agree with you. It's very difficult. I mean, one end, from 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I'm working with our physical education teachers, and phys ed looks more different than it's ever looked before, and we're following, as Marie said, different guidance that has been given to us for athletics. But, we had a really good conversation with our coaches last night, and, the guidance that we have for athletics, we are going to strictly enforce for our sports programs that we're planning on rolling out, hopefully Monday. Physical distancing, whenever that can be administered, especially in a controlled setting like practices, getting on the bus, getting off the bus, locker rooms. Masks, our plan is that every athlete's going to be masked up for games. And I know that's been, an interesting conversation, because you're talking about field hockey and soccer players, and you're talking about cross-country runners. But I think for this to work, we have to follow our guidance, and we have to be strict about that. And I know the league is on board with that. It's not going to be Guilderland does one thing and Saratoga does another. But we have an opportunity in the fall to kind of set the stage, and if we are serious about, this, and we don't get too comfortable and we do our due diligence, I do believe that we can do this safely. And masks are a big part of it. We have a pretty good plan for screening our athletes prior to coming to practices and games. Spectators, it'll be 2 spectators per athlete, so they're going to be given spectator badges. So if mom can't make a game, they can give that badge to grandma or brother and sister. But that's Department of Health guidelines, 2 spectators per athlete, and we'll have chaperones at every game. And we will have tables set up at every game, and we will be screening spectators that come in every game and checking those badges. We'll have a plan for locker rooms as well. So, I mean, we spoke at length last night, and I feel really good, and Marie and I spoke again today, and I know it's a hot topic, and I know it's in the news, and I know people feel strongly one way or the other on this topic. And just as I told Marie, personally, you know, I've just since last spring, I mean, there's just, in my eyes, so many steps in the right direction, from, you know, the governor giving us the green light to do this, to NISFA following, giving us the green light to do this, obviously leaving it up to individual school districts, but giving us the green light to do so. Not apples to apples, but we've got, you know, professional sports and you know, in all areas being played right now. College football is being played. You could turn on the TV and watch high school football in other states being played right now. And high school sports are being played in other states right now. So I think the infection rate in New York State is lower than it's been since we've you know, had to deal with this pandemic. We can now go back to gyms. You know, I was there this afternoon. And schools have now reopened. So I do think that there's positive steps in the right direction, and I think with the guidance that we have, we can do this the right way, and we can do this safely. And I know our coaches are excited, you know, having met with them yesterday and started our one-on-one meetings with the varsity coaches today, and we'll finish those up tomorrow, where we're going to get really more into detail about sport-specific guidance and what can the tennis coach specifically do, you know, to make sure we're safe out there, and what can we do, you know, as a cross-country program to maybe limit the runners that are out there. And you know, so we've talked about staggering races for JV varsity boys, girls. So those conversations are ongoing. I feel really positive that we can do this the right way and be safe, because I think our kids need it. I think it's just those opportunities that, you know, just like coming back to school, that we can give them back and do it safely and do it the right way. So, but as I said, the fall sports pressure's on. I mean, they've got the opportunity to show us that we can do it, you know, and I think we all have to do our part. I know the coaches are excited about it.
Thanks, Dave, for giving that. I know there's questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Judy.
Are we providing the masks so that they all have a quality that, you know, is worthy of?
Yeah, so Cliff Nooney delivered a couple cases of masks for us today, so each coach is going to get a couple boxes to put in their med kits.
Okay.
In the event, now we're going to tell our kids that they should be coming with masks, but in the event that they forgot their mask or it breaks, we'll have something for them.
Okay.
You know, and in the area of like cross country and soccer and field hockey, we've really started to have conversations, because I get it, it's going to be difficult for kids to keep a mask on. I mean, if you've been to a cross country race and you've hung out at the finish line, you know that they are absolutely exhausted at the end. And, you know, we're certainly not going to tell the kids that they at no point can take that mask off, but we have to coach them about when it's okay to do it and what they should do in that moment. So that's, but I also, you know, there's going to be masks that are better for those kids to wear. You know, I know in my experience when I've been on a treadmill, I've worn this mask and a surgical mask, and I couldn't do this one again. But the surgical mask was much more comfortable for me. So yes, they will be provided. Our coaches are getting hand sanitizer. They're getting dry wipes and spray bottles for equipment, wipe downs, and as well as masks. So we're loading them up with PPE.
Okay, that's good, and we do have great kids, and I assume that they will want to do what's right, and if they don't, then we have to figure out, is the sport worth it? My other question is about busing. I feel it's the only thing I've asked about, but we don't provide busing after 4:30, do we? And how are the kids,
Well,
does everybody have transportation?
It's a great question, and when we had our conversations about the possibility of sports starting up, there were logistical hurdles right off the bat that we knew we were going to have to get creative on. You know, the end of the school day, 4:30 for 7th through 12th graders, that's the latest end of school time for any school in the Suburban Council. So that puts us in a tough spot. And transportation, obviously, you can all imagine that's going to be difficult. And I think in a normal season, it's tough to hit all of our trips. So fortunately, We have gotten creative with the schedule for the fall season. It's not going to look like, it has looked in the past. We don't have a full slate of games. We are league only. We're not traveling to any other school but the schools in our league. A normal soccer season, maybe 16 games. We're talking about 10 or 11 games on this schedule. We are utilizing Saturdays for all sports, which will help for the transportation because buses are more available on Saturday. But to answer your question specifically about Monday through Friday transportation, the schedules they're not complete yet, but they will be by the end of the week. And when we have those schedules complete, we'll send those to the transportation department as soon as we can and start figuring out what we can do and what we can't. What we will have to lean on, there's no doubt about it, is we're going to have support from our parents.
Right.
We are going to need parents to be able to transport our kids to games.
And also to practices, I
Yes,
think.
sure. Yeah,
it's 5
sure.
days or 6 days a week.
Sure. But we are sticking to 20 on a bus, just like the kids that are going to school are. That's not going to change. So if that's not going to change, and we have a 4:30 end of school day, and transportation is an issue, then we need to lean on our parents. And that's going to be a message that, I have a plan to do a virtual community forum on Thursday night. So we'll talk about this to the parents and the athletes.
Okay.
But that's going to be loud and clear message that, certainly we hope that every team will have the option to take the yellow school bus because I think we can provide, and I've talked to Danielle in transportation, and because most of our, a lot of our games are on Saturdays and the schedule is set up so that really only it's 1 or 2 teams a day that are playing, which is helpful. We kind of got a nice rotation going. It's going to limit the amount of trips that we're taking during the week. But we're going to have to lean on the parents, and we've talked about, a transportation form, a waiver form for the season. But our coaches are going to have to check in at the beginning of the week and kind of and they'll have to email parents and say, hey, who needs a bus this week for Wednesday's game? And because we may not need a bus after the parents step up. We don't know, and if we don't need a bus, then I want to make sure I tell Danielle, before the bus shows up.
Zena, do you have a comment?
So to answer your
Yeah.
question, we got to lean on the parents, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I understand the low risk and the high risk sports, and there's obviously some discretion for medium risk. And obviously there's 2 districts that are choosing not to do medium risk. And I think we all had an email from a student at Bethlehem asking, what is Guilderland doing to assure that, why are we choosing to go ahead with medium risk, because what are we doing that's any different? And I guess my concern is that the bar is so low just to get students back in the building. I would really hate for the school district to close because of a soccer game. And I get it, I played sports my whole life. I'm so happy my kids are back in school and they can start doing stuff. But knowing what happened in Mahonison last week, North Colony, I think yesterday, had a case, and I think the streak broke today for New York State. It's not below 1% anymore. I think it's at 1% or above today. So I'm concerned about that, and, I get everybody's psyched for sports, but I don't know if that's worth, the risk to take, where the school district is going to close.
Sure, it's a valid concern. I think we all are concerned, and when Maria and I spoke today, there's no, as optimistic as I am, and as much as I'm confident that we can execute our plan, there's no way that I could tell anybody here that we can guarantee that we won't have an infection due to a soccer game or a field hockey game. Which is the same, for a school day, I guess. I know it's different because you're talking about kids coming inside that 6 feet and potentially being really close to each other. So, and I know I got that email and I got to get back to her tonight. It's been a busy couple days, but, we didn't get different information than Bethlehem did. I think it's so important, that, we continually can communicate with our coaches, and we're transparent about when guidance comes out. They get it as soon as it comes out, and we've done that. And our one-on-one meetings, I'm really encouraged. I'm encouraged hearing Jen Sykes, the field hockey coach, and Dan Penna, the football coach, who I know we've moved high-risk sports to March, and our soccer coaches who had summer camps, through the town, not here. They couldn't do anything organized on campus over the summer, but they did summer camps, and just hearing them, walk me through how how they, screened athletes as they came in, and how they used cones and poly spots to distance the kids, and everybody brought their own ball for field hockey, and I'm just encouraged hearing that, and I know parents have echoed to me, over the summer, how proud they were of how well those camps went, and how serious our coaches took, the guidelines, and making sure, we were doing everything we could to limit or mitigate something potentially happening, because of sports. And it's a valid concern, for sure. But as I said, I look at the steps in the right direction, and I'm optimistic, and I'll remain to be optimistic. And just being around the coaches and hearing their stories about the camps that they've run over the summer, and already, kind of rolling up our sleeves in the one-on-one meetings and talking about what we can do sport by sport. I'm just encouraged, and I'm optimistic, and I'm confident that we can do it.
Seema,
Yeah,
I think Blanca has a question.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Blanca.
Blanca, did you have a question?
Hi, sorry. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just have a couple points to make. I think it's no secret to anyone that I am the toughest customer when it comes to COVID. So I have a couple points to make here. I do think that, first I want to clarify, all of the sports we're talking about are outdoors, yes?
That's correct.
Okay. So, as overly cautious as I am, and I am remote, my kids are remote learning, and I'm a contact tracer, I do think that if we devise a plan that differs from sport to sport, that we can safely and successfully have the sports indicated to be moderate risk, except soccer, which breaks my heart because soccer is my favorite sport, actually, and none of my children play sports. I have concerns about soccer, but I think we could work around that if we upgrade the kind of mask and do a mask and a shield. So it's still out there to discuss. So I'm saying to you as a very neurotic public health professional, a few points. One, if we go forward with this, we need to be super careful. I would love to be involved, if at all possible, in my role as a parent, or not necessarily, as a neurotic public health parent, if you'd like, as opposed to a board member. But I think it can be accomplished. We need to be consistent with the masks that we use, which Barbara brought up, across sports, because we don't want one child having difficulty breathing because they have X mask and the other one, doing better, X, Y, Z. And then also, I'd like to go back to the point that we were talking about, the fall coaches. I am opposed to prorating. I think that coaches start preparing for their season months in advance, and now they've been doing it off the clock because there's no way they're not planning for it. And if we say we're going to move forward with the season, they plan for the entire season once they're told, that we're going to move forward. So I don't think it's fair, because of the pandemic that happens every 100 years, to take away their income. So I'm opposed to prorating. I feel like that's unfair to the coaches, because they will be planning for the entire season, whether it happens or not, and under, really stressful conditions with that. I think that if we have sports, we should limit spectators. I think all practices need to be outdoors. If they have to be moved in because of rain, then they need to adhere to the 12 feet. And that's pretty much, those are my points.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Blanca.
that's it.
Barb, did you have a question? You're waving your hand.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
I am supportive of what we're doing right now. Question I have is more of a practical one. Some districts are having their kids go home and then have the parents bring them back for a practice. To me, that is crazy. What are our plans for, say, the cross-country kids, the soccer kids? When school gets out, do they have to take a bus home and then come back, or are they able to stay on campus, maintain their social distancing, change their clothes, and go out in the field?
Yeah, they're definitely going to be able to stay on campus, with a 4:30 end time and daylight that,
Right.
As we get in the middle of October and end of October, that sun goes down at about 6 o'clock at night. The majority of our practices are going to have to be between the hours of 4:30 and 6:15, 6:30 at the start of the season, and that will probably have to get gradually shorter. So, so the plan is the kids that are in school are going to stay in school because that's when their practices are going to most likely be. And the kids that are remote, and this is something we discussed about, it's just those kids are, unfortunately, they're going to have to get their own transportation to school. Now, we could provide them with a bus to away games, but we certainly can't, with the transportation concerns that we have right now, just of the staggered dismissals and the 4:30 end time, we can't, it's not realistic to go get all remote athletes and bring them to school. So to answer your question, most of the practices, if not all, will be 4:30 to 6:30, so they will be able to stay at school, the kids that are remote and in person that day. And the kids that aren't in person that day will have to get, a ride to school for practice.
Right. Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions, Kelly? Oh, Rebecca and then Kelly, sorry.
Go ahead, Rebecca. You haven't talked yet.
I just had a comment. I know this is not coming from you, but I just can't reconcile the two separate safety, recommendations. So why 12 feet at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 6 feet at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when it's the same people? And that really worries me because I agree with Seema. Our goal is to keep the schools open as long as possible. And I just worry about, a lapse in those mitigating factors. And as far as relying on parents for transportation, which I completely understand, there's no limitations on sharing rides, right?
As far as athletes going with other parents,
Yeah.
that will be part of our waiver. Well, that will be a separate conversation, obviously, we'll have to talk about. We're certainly not encouraging carpooling during this time, but if we have an athlete whose friend's mom or father is bringing them to the game, we've talked about that as an option that we would consider, but we certainly have to look at, capping that. I don't think we want to encourage, a van load of kids. That's a valid concern, sure.
That's what I would worry about
Yeah.
as well.
Kelly?
Kind of, as far as spectators are, I don't mean to get into the weeds, but how are they going to, are you going to have a QR code and I'm going to check, just like I did when I walked in here, and you're going to vet somebody before the game happens? Or are you going to do it prior to them coming?
We thought about that, and I think the QR idea is great, but I could just envision our chaperones, having some issues with that. Maybe somebody's having connection issues or has just never used a QR code before, because we're not talking about just Guilderland spectators. We're also going to have visitors from other schools that may not be used to doing the QR code at Guilderland. So we've worked, Kate and I, Kate, our trainer, athletic trainer, have worked, and we've kind of, I know it's the archaic old school model, but we're going to have a clipboard that is basically going to have them print their name. That's going to be their attendance, which is their contact tracing. We'll have 3 questions underneath their name. If you experience any COVID-related symptoms, have you traveled to these states, have you been around, or have you tested COVID positive or been around somebody with yes, yes, no, 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 and they'll provide us with a phone number. So there's our screening and there's our contact tracing. I love the idea of the QR code. I'm just thinking about from a management standpoint, when you've got people spaced out 6 feet in the line, ready to get in to watch their son or daughter, and somebody's having a difficult time with the QR code. So, that's what we're thinking, and I think we're thinking the same thing for athletes, and I know our athletes are required to do the Guilderland screening each day, but I think to be safe, I think we would like our coaches to do it on paper, and we'll separate them into cohorts. We've got some teams that have upwards of 30, 40 kids on their roster, so we can't have 40 kids standing in a line filling out a clipboard before practice. So we'll put them in cohorts and separate them and distance them. And but I don't think our coaches would have the time to look up, or maybe have the ability to look up who's filled out the Guilderland screening or hasn't by the time practice starts. So we're probably going to keep it similar to spectators and athletes.
I think it's a lot easier to control, for lack of better sense, the students.
Sure.
You're his coach. They're going to listen to you, but like spectators, we don't know where they're coming from.
Sure.
You don't know who they are. They could be visitors from Florida. You just don't know. So I don't know how to manage that. The carpooling and people that don't have access to a car. How are you going to get these kids? How are they going to have the same access to that
Sure.
talk equity, if you want to talk about, I don't want to talk about that forever, but like, or right now, but like, I don't know.
Yeah,
And I'm
each team
struggling,
is going to be provided with a bus. That's not going to change.
For practices?
But, no, for games. And we've talked about, there are teams that normally get bused over to practice. You're talking field hockey goes to Aframs, cross country goes to Towasantha, golf goes to Western Turnpike, and swimming goes to Voorheesville. So we've had some conversations about that. Cross country may have to get creative and do more practices on campus. Our swimming coach may have to run a later practice, so our kids have a better ability to get over to Voorheesville on their own. So we've had those conversations, and I'm hopeful that we can have a shuttle for opportunities like that, but I don't want to go into this banking on that because, we're all, we're flying it by the seat of our pants here, and just transportation is a big logical, logistical concern.
I mean, on top of all that, I'm, of course, I can't reconcile what happens magically after 4 PM that's changed. Like, that's kind of the basis of all of it, but.
Dave, I just have a question. On the list of the sports on the table, which ones are medium risk and which ones are low?
So
Cross-country is low.
I believe it's just soccer and field hockey.
Or the medium?
Yes.
And the other ones are low risk?
Correct.
Okay. Do other people have questions?
I do.
Luciano?
Are we going to play like every level, modified, JV, varsity?
Great question. We talked about that, and it's a tall task, but we are planning on offering the opportunity for 7th through 12th graders. So the varsity and JV sports will be scheduled like normal sports. The Suburban Council has created schedules for varsity and JV teams, but not for modified, so we're on our own, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have a modified program. We are. But there's fewer teams available to schedule, which is the reason why the Suburban Council decided against creating a modified schedule. So there are other schools, Columbia, Troy, CBA, who are doing something similar to what we're doing. We are going to run a modified program for cross-country. We do have 2 coaches, a boys and a girls coach, so what we're going to do for them is one coach is going to go to Farnsworth and one is going to go to the high school. Because that was a big question. How are we going to make modified work when 7th grade is in one building and 8th grade is in another? And we don't know if we'll have the ability to shuttle those over. And even if we did, it would be almost a nightmare, trying to manage that. So we have a plan there for cross country and the soccer coaches. Obviously we only have one boys modified coach and one girls modified coach. So what we're going to do there is the boys coach will work with, let's say, the 7th graders on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, while the girls coach works with the 8th graders up here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Less kids on the field, which will help. And I know, some kids, their kids are remote, or some are home and some are in school, and it's every other day. So I think by doing it 3 days in a row, it makes it more equitable for the kids that aren't necessarily in school on the Monday, but they're in school on Tuesday. And then we'll flip. So, the coach that was up here doing the 8th graders will go down Thursday, Friday to hit the 7th graders up, and vice versa. And then we'll just flip the rotation the following week. So it will look different. Modified will look different than it's ever looked before, but it's going to be, we want to give them an experience, and it's going to be offered, like kind of skills sessions, player development type stuff, with the option to put a few games in towards the middle to end of October for them. So that's our plans for the modified program, 7th and 8th graders.
Is team size going to be limited at all?
It won't be limited. It won't be limited. Like I said, for sports like cross-country that bring out a larger number of kids, we're going to have races for JV, boys and girls separate. We're going to have races for varsity, boys and girls separate. We may not even have, if we do a 9 o'clock start and do JV boys, followed by varsity boys at 9:30, we may try to work it so the girls aren't getting bussed in, until later, and we don't have boys and girls, at the park together. Those are some details that we've got to work out, but no limitations on teams. I know some coaches have, had some conversations about it. The bus piece especially is something that is weighing heavily on their mind, but I do, and I know I'm new to Guilderland, but I do think when I communicate to the community that this is a very different season, and we're going to need to pull together to make this work. I'm confident that we will have a number of parents that want to see this work, and we'll be able to help, and, you know, we'll be able to make the transportation work for even the larger teams.
Okay.
Blanca, did you have one question?
I have another comment, if that's okay. Okay, so if we were to do this, I would recommend that we consider not allowing any student spectators, that we add a requirement to the code. I think that students still need to sign like the athletic code of behavior or something like that, where they agree to not be part of risky behavior, risky as in contributing to the spread of infection. I think they should probably, I don't think we should have busing at all, to be honest with you, because in our current plan, I've said before, that is my concern, it's the busing. And soccer is still a question mark for me, because as far as I can tell, that's the only one that you really can't stay 6 feet away. But you could get around that by having players on the field for a maximum of, like, you know, X number of minutes, and then taking them off, because exposure takes 10 minutes. I'm just trying to think this through out loud, but I really only feel like there should not be spectators, especially during competitions, you know, with other school districts and things like that, and definitely no students. I think it needs to be maybe one parent per player, and, you know, recruitment people from colleges, things like that.
Okay, any other questions?
I have one last question.
Go ahead, Luciano.
So I've read in the paper that they've waived pre-participation physical requirements for some students this year for sports.
So what they did there was obviously recognizing how difficult it is for some to get in to get their normal yearly physicals. What they did was, instead of, you know, having our athletes have a physical within the last calendar year to be eligible for sports participation, they've extended that to the last 2 years. So if athletes received a sports physical in either the 18-19 school year or the 19-20 school year, that will be good for their physical for the fall season, which will help, for sure.
Is there any sort of like, I don't know, questionnaire before this year? Is there anything that they have to fill out beforehand?
Well,
new
they'll
health
have to
conditions?
complete their health history update, which is not anything new. That's what's required before every season, and it's only to be filled out no sooner than 30 days prior to the season. So that's a form that we should be able to, you know, if God forbid something happened to a kid related to COVID before, over the summer, we'd know about that, I assume through that form.
Okay, Kelly?
Just to Blanca's point, or I think soccer and field hockey are very similar. I was a soccer player. I never played field hockey, but it seems the same amount of contact. Like, I can see why they're grouped in the same category. So I don't know if we're gonna like take a look at them, we should look at them together and not just soccer. And field hockey's great and awesome. I think they're probably pretty similar if we're talking about it.
Sure, I think contact is the key there, because I think if you're talking just about sports that can, guarantee that there won't be 6 feet, inside 6 feet, I don't know if you can say that there's a sport, that we offer in the fall, even our low-risk sports that guarantees 6 feet or more at all times.
Yeah.
Doubles tennis, for instance, you got two girls on one side of the court, so, although they'd be 6 feet apart most of the match, you can't guarantee that they would be 6 feet apart all of the match. And same with cross-country, and when they disperse and separate. So I think it's contact for sure that separates the low risk and the moderate risk. And I would agree that that's the reason why I think field hockey and soccer are moderate, while the others are low.
I'm just saying not to exclude. I think they're pretty we had a lot of contact in our soccer teams, and certainly the field hockey ones were very similar. So I just say not to exclude it if we're talking about that category.
Does Barb have a question?
Barbara.
All right, okay, go ahead, Barb.
Just a couple of observations to share. This weekend, I happened to go to my grandson's soccer game, a huge complex over here in Massachusetts. The people were lined up along the sidelines. Everybody kept their social distance. People had their masks on. The kids had their masks on. And this has been going on for months, quite successfully. My granddaughter was on a lacrosse team, and they traveled, I forget where, but one of the players was in a car with her dad, who unknowingly did have COVID. So all the 75 kids that were in that tournament had to be tested. Not a single one tested positive. And the reason that people give is that you are outdoors. The contact between players is minimal. The players were kept on the sidelines, again, at 6-foot social distances when they weren't on the field. And I think we sort of over-worry on the actual playing field. What troubles me, and I hope that the coaches can address the kids with this, athletic teams have been notorious for getting together afterwards on weekends and mingling and doing risky behaviors. And this, of course, would be extremely risky. So I think we really have got to pound that home to the parents as well as the kids, that the social distancing that we're practicing in school has to continue in their afterlife when they get home. And I really think on the playing field, they're very, very safe. With the outdoor air, all that I have read indicates that you have to have close contact for anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes in a confined space and close contact. So I'm very, very comfortable letting the kids play and have a little bit of fun, as long as they respect each other and, follow the rules after the game as well.
Okay, thank you, Barb. Does anybody have a new question or new comment? No, okay. Can I ask that we vote for field hockey and soccer separately from the other sports to make it complicated?
What are we exactly
Okay.
voting on? Is it the teachers? Right?
Appointing the coaches.
Appointing the coaches. So you're saying if
I just
you're-
want to vote in two separate groups,
Like our
one
backdoor
set of
veto
sports.
power.
Like what?
Our backdoor veto power.
Backdoor veto. Okay, I just want to be clear about where, okay, go ahead.
I agree.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve, what is this, cross-country, golf, and swimming, diving, tennis, and strength coach?
So moved.
Luciano, second Gloria. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Said aye? Okay. Passes 9-0. And can I have a motion to approve field hockey and soccer?
So moved.
Ben, second Barb. Any other comments or questions?
Wait, I still have one more question. I'm just curious, like, as Blanca said, if we, like, I think, for me, I'm on the side of holding off for those two sports at the moment. But I'm not, but I'm concerned about, I'm not sure exactly what it means by, like, am I not appointing the coach for that team at the moment? Can you just explain exactly what the vote means as far as, like, because like Blanca said, like, they've been working all year long and preparing for this. Am I essentially eliminating that coaching position at the moment, or is it the sport I'm talking about? Like, I just need a little bit more clarity. I'm not really clear on exactly what the vote
They're
is.
connected, Kelly.
I know.
If we don't
Is that-
appoint the coach, we can't pay the coach. And if we can't pay the coach, the sport won't happen. So they're linked in that way.
The high-risk fall sports those coaches aren't getting appointed this season anyway, so.
Because theirs has been moved to March. And we'll take that up later in the year. But the season starts next Monday, so 6 days from today. Yeah,
I feel like it needs more.
difficult, I
I
know.
feel like it needs more, but.
Okay, any other questions or comments that we haven't discussed already?
Oh, Blanca's waving.
Oh, go ahead, Blanca.
Can we vote on those two coaches? And then after, because we're essentially voting yes or no on their lines without having a plan, a written plan. So I'm less comfortable with that, like Kelly, with soccer and field hockey, but I still think the two things need to be separate. I think we should move forward with approving all of them, and that the coaches can work, specifically field hockey and soccer, on writing a plan, and then we approve the plan or modify the plan as needed. I don't know if it's possible to do that. I'm trying to separate the two.
I don't think we're part of the plan. We would just be approving, right? And it'd be the coaches deciding, so we don't really have any, this is where we would have a say in that. I mean, we don't work here, so we, approve this or don't approve this, and then the people who are hired for those things make those plans.
Right. Touche.
Barb has her hand up, just.
Oh, Barb.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm in favor of continuing these. As I think Dave pointed out, soccer has been going on all summer long with the club sports. So have the other outdoor sports, and without incident. So why would we restrict our kids' ability to get back on the field for a very limited season with all the precautions that Dave has already shared with us that they would be taking with the kids? There's no point in appointing the coaches if we're not going to have the season. So I think this vote is, if we appoint the coaches, the kids will have a season. And I think the coaches have demonstrated over the summertime, both in our own area, and as I said, I'm in Massachusetts now, which has even opened up sooner, that this can be done safely. And we're outdoors. It's not an indoor sport. There's plenty of air. There's plenty of circulation. Minimal contact. I played field hockey. You struggle for the ball every now and then, but you're not shoulder to shoulder for 10 minutes in a confined space. You're outdoors with the breeze blowing. So I think we're perfectly safe here. And as I said, my only concern was that the after game activities that the kids might engage in, but so would the other sports be in that same category. So I just hate denying the kids the opportunity when I think we've already proven as a society that they can play safely.
Barbara, I just want to respond to it. Like, I'm not trying to deny anybody, but I think there's no zero risk. But at some point, we have to decide what risk we're okay with. I am just personally not okay with that risk, knowing what's at stake. So it's not that, I'm trying to deny kids playing sports. That's not my goal. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so all in favor?
All in favor of funding or supporting?
Appointing field hockey and soccer.
Okay.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and Barb?
And Barb.
Yes.
5? And Blanca?
And Blanca.
Okay, that's 6.
6.
All oppose?
Aye.
And that's
Nay.
3, so passes 6-3.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. You're
Thanks,
more than
Dave.
welcome. Stick around for the next couple hours, but I also know you're very busy.
I think I'm going to go to my office and get a couple things done.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Got a
We
few days to
appreciate
get this all together, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, next on the agenda is information items, curriculum instruction. Dr. Singleton?
Thank you. I've been waiting patiently. So my first item is just a book for your information. This is the book Stamped, which of course you all have received a copy of, and that would be used in high school elective courses for either English or social studies, so it would be available for both subject areas. And we'll seek approval at the next meeting. My second item is just an update from the man behind the cameras here. Many of our GHS students are collaborating with theater director Andy Maycock to produce a new fall play Mr. Maycock and his student team have come up with a new idea to keep our theater program alive and well for our students. And I'll just share a brief quote from Mr. Maycock about his idea and the team's idea. So the idea for the fall play will be 1 to 2 minute monologues, all student written, focusing on the idea of alone or together. And he's hoping that each monologue will focus on specifics of feeling alone, for example, quarantined, misunderstood, isolated, or cast out, or on feeling together, such as supported, encouraged, comfortable. But alone can also be positive, and together can also be negative. So they are looking for monologues that fall into some predictable formula, that fall into some predictable formula, but instead honest pieces that offer specific experiences. The more detail, the better. Also, when students submit their monologues for the play's consideration, they can do it anonymously. Mr. Maycock looks forward to giving written by credit to all student writers on the project, but he also understands that some students may not want their names publicized. And we do want to extend many thanks to Mr. Maycock and his student team for their creativity, innovation, and pioneering spirit during these very challenging times. And we certainly look forward to seeing our students shine once again via the theater program. So thank you, Mr. Maycock.
Demian, for the fall play, would it be done virtually? Would we be able to see it then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're still under the restrictions for mass gathering, so we can't have more than 50 people gather at this point.
Okay.
And I do want to share with you some information about 2 new courses that are being considered for our high school. And the GHS Social Studies and English departments are collaboratively working with Schenectady County Community College and Syracuse University to create new courses for GHS students. And they are in alignment with our goals around equity and diversity, and they are History of Black Americans in the United States and an Introduction to African American Studies. Both would provide opportunities for students to earn college credit while also learning about critical perspectives given contemporary issues. Additionally, these departments are working to develop another history course through Schenectady County Community College, which would serve as a follow-up to the History of Black Americans course. The second course will focus on the historiography of the topic, example, how history has been written and presented differently over time. All of these courses would be a semester in length. The super course is in development and would be scheduled to be piloted next year, notwithstanding any other factors. All of the offerings would be for the 21-22 school year. I will say that we're still in some conversation around these courses as far as the accessibility to all students. I think that's a critical consideration right now, so I do want to just say it's still a work in progress right now, particularly around the super course, which comes with a pretty hefty tuition price tag for students. So we're very cognizant of that. We don't want that to be a deterrent or anything that would block the accessibility for all of our students to participate. So we're still having conversations about that. And my last item is just a quick update for you regarding the school reopening. So the week of September 7th was our first opportunity to welcome our students back to school in whichever form was selected by parents. Again, the week of September 7th was remote for all students. And as we know, parents were afforded a choice between in-person instruction at grades K through 6, hybrid at grades 7 through 12, or full remote for all of our students, grades K through 12. And we began the week with 1,200 exactly opting for full remote and 3,664 students in person or for hybrid beginning yesterday, September 14th. Regardless of the model, all of the students were able to meet with their teachers last week and begin learning about new practices, routines, expectations, and structures for schooling this year. All of our teachers scheduled video conferences with their respective students. Additionally, we happily implemented several in-person orientation programs designed to welcome our incoming kindergarten students and our 5th and 6th grade students who were transitioning to Farnsworth, as well as our 8th and 9th grade students who were transitioning to Gilderland High School. And these, of course, are new learning spaces for those students and schools for them. All of the programs went swimmingly well, and it was such a pleasure to see children walking through the halls of our schools once again. We absolutely miss them. By all accounts, the students understood and respected new expectations for social distancing, mask wearing, traffic flow, etc. As we transition to the first full week of full in-person, remote, and hybrid instruction, we also want to remind parents of the critical importance of trying to remain committed to the model that they have selected. And we fully understand the challenges faced by parents and students this year, and our first priority as a school district is to keep our students and families safe. And we ask that people recognize that any changes in the selected model can quickly compromise our ability to comply with social distancing guidelines. Example, returning to in-person instruction from remote. And this again makes difficult our ability to maintain remote sections, reasonable class sizes for our remote learners, as well as our in-person class sections. So we just ask parents to be cognizant of that, fully understanding how complex this scenario is that they're being faced with.
Okay, thank you, Demian. Next, school business information, Neil.
Thank you, Seema. First item this evening is I'd like to talk about the cash flow report, and that was provided to you as part of the financial reports. That's a new report that you haven't seen before, but we did think in this time of withholding of state aid that it would be good to have a conversation about that and the difference between our budget, which is a function of expenditures and revenues, and as well as what cash we have on hand in order to meet our bills. So our budget basically has two components. It has the expenditure side, where we identify all of our needs and what we expect to spend over the course of the year, and then we match that up on the other side with sources of revenue. But we're really looking at that as kind of a year-end event. Where do we end up at the end of the year? Do we have less expenses than anticipated or more revenue than anticipated? And if so, we have a savings, but we're monitoring that bottom line. Where will we end up at the end of the year in terms of our overall budget? In terms of a cash flow, what we're really looking at is the unevenness of expenditures and revenue over the course of a school year. We don't get revenue in even chunks, and we don't have expenditures in equal, even chunks either. But just like you have to manage your home budget, you need to make sure that as your bills come in, you have enough income or revenue to meet your expenses. So we developed this cash flow report, and it's something we do, we just haven't shared with the board over the years, but what it really does is it looks at all of the cash we have on hand, and then on a monthly basis, what do we expect to get in terms of revenue, and then what do we expect in terms of expenses, and what cash do we have on hand to make sure we can pay our bills and meet those obligations. So as you can see, we start with some cash on hand, and again, our cash is more than just what our budget is. We also have money in fund balance and reserves, which we showed you at the bottom. So we have some savings account money available to us. We can invest that, and we have it available to help pay bills from a cash basis. So we have money to start with. Now again, in terms of the unevenness, we get most of our revenue in September and October, and that's from tax revenue. So the good thing for school districts is we get most of our revenue, 70% of it or so, upfront early in the school year. So that helps as we go through a school year cycle to know that we have a lot of our revenue in hand already from cash receipts. And then, as you know, we're on a school cycle. Our expenses, especially related to payroll for staff, that's spread out over the course of a school year. So we have upfront revenue, we have expenses that are spread out over the course of the school year, but we do want to monitor where we are each month in terms of what cash or what income we have coming in and what expenses we have going out, and be able to monitor that cash balance over time. And you will see from a cash point of view, even if, and we don't know if this is true, but even if the state were to hold 20% of our state aid, which is about $5 million, we will still be in a good cash position at the end of the year, because it's more than just our budget. It's other cash that we have in reserves and fund balance, savings that we have that we can use to help pay bills and expenses. So I just wanted to walk through that a little bit with you, and you can kind of see how those categories of expense and income roll out over the course of the year, where they typically hit, and how that impacts the balances each month that we need to make sure we have in order to pay our bills. I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any. Yes.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, on the line that says payroll under disbursements, how come October zooms up like that, 6,000?
Because most of our staff are 10-month, so they don't get paid in the summer months, July and August. So we typically don't start making payments until September, October, so it's really that cycle.
But then it goes to a set amount, 4,500, pretty much steady. It's just that 1 month.
Yeah, we start slower and there's not as many, the pays aren't all equal either in terms of the number of pays per month, so that may be the other reason.
And then April it goes up again, but those other months
But
in
we
the
do
middle.
have some 3 pays that occur 3 times in a month. So there's 2 of those throughout the course of the year. So we do have
okay.
3 pays in a month, the longer
Maybe
months.
that's what that one was. Yeah, that would be that.
Yeah, October, April,
That's it.
January.
Yep.
Neil, so all of these months are with the estimate of that state aid reduction of 20%?
Correct, and you can see that those aid payments come in at different times during the year and represent different amounts. So some of our aid, categories of aid are paid in full in certain months. Other categories are spread throughout the course of the year. I could try to explain to you all the categories of aid and how they determine when you'll receive that aid and how much. It would probably take a half hour to go through that explanation of how the state has divvied that up, but there's not an even revenue stream for state aid. So there's different categories, there's different payment schedules. So in what it's really showing you is the uneven nature of state aid throughout the course of the year. Okay, so the point is, if there's no further questions, we'll be providing this each month, so you'll be able to keep an eye on it, and right now we have a lot of estimates, but we'll be putting actuals in and getting closer and closer to our final numbers. Next item this evening is the Guilderland Hamlet Sidewalk Project, and if you're a community resident, you may be well aware of this, but there is a plan to extend sidewalks from Devonshire Drive up Western Avenue west toward the Guilderland Public Library. And as part of that, the town is invoking eminent domain action for property owners to acquire the amount of land that's needed to put the sidewalks in. Where this affects the school district is we are the owner of the parcels that the Guilderland Library sits on, plus 2 adjacent parcels to the east of the main library lot. The school district owns all 3 parcels, and that's part of what is needed for the town to bring sidewalks up to the Guilderland Public Library, which would be a great thing for the library and for the town. So the only way to do that from a governmental agency, we've been advised by our attorney, is the town needs to go through an eminent domain process to acquire the property. There are some options for the school board that we discussed with our attorney. We really have 3 options. One is to really do nothing, let the eminent domain process run, and what would be involved is an appraiser would come in, appraise the value of the property, and that's just for the slice of the sidewalk, would determine that fair market value. If we do nothing, and it's the town that would be paying, and that's how the process works, we would just receive a check for the fair market value of the amount of land that's being used for the installation of the sidewalks. Option 2 is the school board does have the ability to donate the property, but there are some steps that you have to jump through. And one of those is that the voters would have to approve that. So we would have to put up a referendum in May for the community to decide whether they want to approve the donation of the property. So that has some requirements around that. A third option would be to sell the property to the town. And this again would be using the appraised value. So the appraiser would set the price. We would say to the town, we're willing to sell it if you want to buy it. And it's our understanding that as a result of that action, the town can save some money in fees and processing. So it would benefit the town a little bit. We would still, the school district would still get the same value for the property, the appraised value. So right now, not fully decided, but as we discussed, leaning more toward selling the property to the town, enabling them to save some money in the process and doing it in that fashion. The next item is to discuss FEMA funding for personal protective, jumped ahead, USDA authorization to extend free meals. So Just recently, the USDA announced the extension of the free summer meal program, and that's until December 31st, 2020, or until funding runs out. So this is the summer meal program that allowed all students that are 18 years or younger residing in the district, and that includes those attending St. Madeline Sophie School. They're all eligible to receive free meals. And for students that we have in an alternating day rotation schedule, they can pick up their meals for the following day before getting on the bus. And for fully remote students, which is an option as well, a full week of meals will be available for pickups on Mondays. So this is great. Megan Beck, our food service director, is excited. The USDA extended this, so it's basically taking that free summer meal program, putting it in now into the start of the school year and letting it run hopefully until December 31st, but if not, as long as possible. Any student in the district can receive a free meal, no charge, and we hope students take advantage of that. It's a great opportunity. There's still a lot of food insecurity issues in our community as well as all other communities, so very happy to see the USDA making this extension. And again, hopefully it'll last through December 31st. Finally, just want to let, FEMA funding for personal protective equipment. It's the start of the pandemic back in March. FEMA came forward, Federal Emergency Management Agency, to indicate that there would be some reimbursement associated with the pandemic. School districts were included in that. So we have been tracking all of our expenses since March in terms of what might be eligible for reimbursement through FEMA. FEMA has indicated that they would cover 75% of eligible costs up to this point. Not sure it's not quite clear yet what exactly is eligible, but as FEMA's getting their legs under them, I'm sure we'll have more information about that. We're tracking everything that we think might be possibly related to the pandemic and eligible for reimbursement. We're up to close to $200,000 in purchases that we have made so far since March related to the pandemic. And it's a variety of things: cleaning and disinfection equipment and supplies, thermometers, hand sanitizer, face masks and shields, gowns, gloves, air filters, posters, directional markers, student desk extensions. So we've had a variety of expenses in a variety of areas to put together this reopening plan and keep people safe. The other piece that's also tangentially related to that is some additional funding opportunities. So resulting from the pandemic, and this isn't related directly to FEMA, but it's new legislation that the state has put into place, is we can also do some borrowing from some of those reserve funds that we have available. So should we need it for pandemic purchases, we are now able to temporarily transfer monies from any reserve fund, and that and all we have to do is we can pay it now, we have to pay it back within 5 years, and we have to pay at least 20% of what we borrowed each fiscal year with interest. So there is a catch there. That's not free money. So if you take it, you pay your expenses, you have to pay it back fully in 5 years with interest, and you have to make a 20% payment each year, at least the minimum, until you pay it off in 5 years. You can pay it off sooner, of course. So there's a couple things related to the pandemic in terms of reimbursement and also some authorization to use available funds if need be. Then finally, this evening, just want to talk a little bit about the annual financial audit of the 2019-20 fiscal year. It's nearly complete. Our auditors have been working on that diligently over the summer. So the public presentation and acceptance of the audit report is tentatively scheduled for our next board meeting on October 6th.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Next, Superintendent Information, Dr. Wiles.
Okay, my first item is the 2020-2021 proposed Board of Education meeting program reports. And you have the schedule there before you. Of course, I can't get mine to open, but basically we have, in addition to our regular schedule, we have 3 topics that we think would be good for a longer discussion and exploration over the course of the year. We'd like to start in October with really kind of a state of the district after we've been in session for a little over a month and a half, to really give you an update on how things are going with in-person learning, with remote learning, with our hybrid model. Demian alluded to some of these things in his report, but we'll have a better sense really of how our plan is going once we've been in for a while, and we think we could share some good data with you about attendance and student achievement and engagement and so on.
Is that going to be October 6 or 20, do you know?
It's the same, this is the one I can't pull up, it's the same one as the
20th.
The 20th.
Okay. The public input.
Yes, the public input. The next topic we would like to do is focus in on, I know a topic we're going to talk about a little bit later when we meet to do goals, and that is to do an update for the board and the community on our work around diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. There are many activities happening across the district, a ton right in the high school, but we really want to highlight that work. We're also looking forward to having that conversation with the board and seeing how those things weave together. Of course, we're also hoping to put together some kind of a committee / task force, coalition / whatever it is we're going to call it. But in January, we feel like that would be a good time to talk about where are we going, and engage in that conversation. And then the third idea actually came out of our last discussion, I think, around goals, to really dig into how we are supporting our students around social emotional well-being, particularly thinking about our on-site mental health clinic, but also all of the other measures that we have in place to support students. We're very aware that this year more than ever, we need to have a robust plan to support our students as they've come back to school. But I'm convinced that simply bringing them back has had a profound and positive impact based on the smiles that we see. Which is a wonderful segue to my second, first of all, questions or comments on those three topics. Do they seem to make sense? They're also sort of front-loaded. We wanted to do all of our program reports prior to getting too deep into the budget development for 21-22.
I think they sound worthwhile and interesting. I think that's good.
And the timing looks pretty good?
I think it's hard to tell what tomorrow's going to hold, leave alone what, 3 months from now is going to be like, but yes.
But it's better to do them early, so if we need to budget,
Yes.
right, we know what we're budgeting for,
Exactly.
That's the
exactly.
key.
Plus, it's hard, when the budget is
It's going on
fully
to
in
do
front of
anything.
us, it's hard to
Yeah.
sometimes concentrate. So as I was saying, that's a great segue to my next topic, which is really a little bit of a slideshow that we put together, and by we, I mean Amy Perrott. Let me get up here. So Demian spent a few minutes talking about our initial first days of school. We had a few days with just our faculty back in the beginning of the month. Last week we had mostly remote, but we had some students on site. Yesterday was like the first day of school, when we had as many students as we're ever going to have on campus all at the same time. And I'll just say that, there's always, in the first few days of school, bumps in the road. And that's not different this year, but I don't feel, and maybe my colleagues will tell me, that we had any more bumps this year than we've ever had in the past, and maybe a little bit less. I don't know, it seemed like a very, very smooth start. So before I show you all these beautiful children, I just want to recognize a few people who made this happen. And by a few, I mean the 120 people who served on our reopening subcommittees and the steering committee. I mean, these are folks, they were parents, they were administrators, they were community members, they were faculty. from all categories of employees. And they met again and again and again and again and again, all through the summer. And, you know, I'm very proud of our plan, and I think our good days, knocking on wood, are a function of that good plan, and good plans are put in place when you have lots of perspectives, thinking of things that, you know, you only get when you have a diverse group. So I have to recognize that group. I also have to just take my hat off to our administrative team. I can't tell you how many hours, weekends, nights, around the clock that many, many, many of our leaders worked, creating and recreating schedules and bus routes and you name it. It was tremendous. And I think the proof is in the pudding, so I'll stop talking, I'll show you the photos, and then if you have questions for me, we can go. There's no sound to this, so I'll just flip through. And again, Amy Perrott put this together, and she did a beautiful job. So I'll just let you soak it all in. She even got some remote learners in. That's the new Farnsworth in the math wing of the high school with the yellow lockers there. It looks fantastic. There's Farnsworth. Social distancing. Whoops. Remember the picture from one of the many forums we did in the summer with the empty desks 6 feet apart? They look much better with children sitting in them. Students just did great with the masks. Be the future. So you have this in your materials. We'll post it to our website. And I'm sure Amy will be adding, because we've been collecting photos from all over the place. So, any questions or comments or thoughts on our opening?
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. I mean, it seemed, following it as it developed, it's a huge amount of work, and I just, district office, but everybody who contributed, looks like it was a job really well done, and I'm proud and grateful.
Thank you, Judy.
I just want to thank everybody too, especially the ways that they taught students and encouraged students to wear masks and different ways to say hello and get into new routines. And my kids are like the happiest I've seen them in 6 months, so keep them in school.
That is the goal.
Yes.
Keep our doors open. Well, and I want to thank all of you for your support because, you know, you're knowing that we have you in our corner makes it possible to do this crazy work. You know, and it's not done. I mean, we write the plan and the plan may be amended at any time, so we have learned flexibility and creativity, whether we wanted to or not. Anyway, enjoy.
Thanks.
My next item is also good news. So once again, Guilderland High School has earned the distinction of being a recognition school by the University of the State of New York Education Department. And this award is for New York State schools that have high academic achievement, student growth, and a high graduation rate, and have made progress along the way. And this is for the 2018-19 school year. And as former Board of Regents Chancellor Betty Rosa, now Commissioner, has said, she said back in April, identifying these schools, she says, these are exemplary public schools that demonstrate that all students can achieve at high levels with the right supports and resources. Recognition schools help to ensure equity for all students across New York State. Only 13% of all schools in New York State are recognized in this way, so it's an elite group. And I want to congratulate and thank the faculty and staff of GHS for making it all happen. It's really a wonderful accomplishment for a lot of good work that's been done. And then my last item for today is an information item. This is our district safety plan, and it is there for your information. It's also been posted to the district website for public comment, and it will come back again for action back in when we gather again in October. So it's a lengthy plan. You may want to take a little time to look at it. And later in the agenda, we'll actually be appointing members of our district-wide school safety team. So that's all I have for you this evening.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wiles.
Sure.
Next is board president information. I have 3 items. The first is the NYSBA voting delegate guide. I think Luciano and Blanca are probably the only new ones to this, so you'll have a guide there, and there's proposals from school boards all over the state. And so you can go through that guide and share your thoughts with, I think it's Barb, who's our representative. So if you want to go through and read those proposals and tell her, decide how you feel about them. Any questions?
No, can I just say, in Marie's letter on Friday, she listed me, but it's not me, it's Barb who was the delegate.
Sorry.
That's okay, I hadn't signed up for the convention. Barb is great as a voting delegate, too.
And for Luciano and Blanca, there's a form Linda sent out to us, and you just kind of indicate whether you support or not each resolution, and then that'll all come back and compiled, and that'll help Barb decide how to cast a vote.
Right, it'll be a Google form sent to you, and then...
We've already got it, I think.
Yeah, then you can just fill it out, and then it'll be much easier. Thanks, Gloria.
Is there a deadline for that?
Well, October
There is.
20-something is that, so we should have it in by maybe 20th,
The email
15th?
should say, I didn't
Yeah, I
see
have
it
to
yet,
search
but
for
it
it.
should
I
say.
don't know off the
Yeah,
top.
it's got to be either 15th or the 20th of October, because the
Yeah,
convention
it has
starts.
to be before
Yeah.
then.
We
It has to
usually
be
build it
before
in
so we can
there's
talk
time
about it.
to talk about it. in
Oh, that's
advance.
true, yeah.
Probably early.
So it's coming up, I just got to take a look at my emails again. Sure.
October 6th meeting, probably, because the 20th is too close.
Yeah. The next item is the handbook for better school board operating procedures. I think Gloria asked that we look through the first 4 sections.
4 tabs, yeah.
And I'll leave it up to you if you want to.
Yep, I did get one comment by email, and it was just basically, we forgot to indicate which sentence the footnote referred to, so I'll take care of that. Haven't gotten any others on the first 4, but if anybody has something, has thought of it, please send it to me. I don't want to take people's time now trying to do it out loud. So if you could just email me your any additions you'd like to see or suggestions.
And just hand this to you at the end.
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks, Ben. And then you should have received a new insert. You just need to put the tab in front of the papers that Linda gave out, Robert's Rules of Order, because someone asked that we have that in there, so that's in there. And if we could agree to look at the last 2 sections, really only. planning and personnel. For the next meeting, that'll give us a full, at least input on the handbook, and then we can, I'll compile all the suggestions, and then we need to decide whether we want to do the suggestions as a committee of the whole, do we want to appoint an ad hoc committee, or do we want to give it back to the committee that started it, which was communications, which will be new people, but that's okay, to kind of look at the suggestions and see what wording needs to be changed or whatever, and then come back with that. And then we should be done, and then just go the rest of the year and see how we do.
Any other questions?
Everybody good, just the last 2 sections for the next meeting, and anything you have, suggestions or whatever, please just email me them, and I'll compile them before the next meeting.
Gloria, am I wrong? We reviewed the first 4 today.
Yeah, we did, yeah,
And then
for the
there's only
first
1
4.
left, right? Isn't the 5th
The
one
introduction,
just
team communication, board meetings, and team development.
personnel? Oh, okay, so you're counting introduction as a
Yeah, I
separate-
counted it as a tab. And
Okay,
thank you all, thanks.
And the new tab, Robert's Rules, maybe there's some edits to make there. too.
That's true, if you want to look at that, yeah, that's good, let's put that in, since there's only 2 tabs to look at. If you want to look at that Robert's Rules one, Linda was kind enough to find a really good kind of compilation of things, and we put it in there, but if there's, look at it and see if you think it's useful in that form. Thanks, Ben.
Okay, thank you, Gloria. And the last item is the goals planning meeting to schedule. I think almost everybody filled out the doodle, and there are, looks like there's 2 dates, Wednesday the 23rd and Wednesday the 30th, that have the most results. I can switch the 23rd around, so that would make it 8 people.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Marie? I don't know if you're on here.
Yeah, I think these are all good with me.
Okay.
Deb starts with
You.
with my craziness.
All right, so then we'll schedule that for Wednesday, September 23rd, from 6:30 to 8.
In person or remote?
I voted person.
I
if we
vote in
can.
person.
Is this open meeting?
Goals planning, yes, would be an open
It's
meeting.
open meeting. I vote in person, I think it's,
I mean, I'm okay either way. Remote is much more convenient, but I'm happy to come in person, because I don't leave my house.
you need to get out more.
Doesn't matter to me.
No? Okay, so I guess we'll do in person then?
Thank you.
Wait a minute, Stima?
Yes.
Blanca is not going to be able to do that for the same reason she can't do the remote, you had to do remote today. So I don't know if that would change anyone's perspective that, we may want to do the remote.
Well, she can come in remote, right? We can do that again?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Is there a better day that you could come? Or is it,
Oh, we're not doing another doodle.
well, no, but like you said, there was a tie between the 23rd and the 30th.
She's concerned about her kids.
Okay, so it's
not,
100, all of it's out, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
So, yeah, Blanca, you can come in on remote, like today.
I mean, I'm good either way. I think remote is more convenient. We actually have a lot going on around the Halloween holiday, but a couple of weekends, but, so either way is fine for me. I'd actually rather prefer the online for the same convenience reason. However, I'm good either way.
Well, I think if the option's there, everyone has the option,
Okay.
Some of us will be here, and, then you can make your choice.
All right, so Wednesday, the 23rd, 6:30 to 8. That's next week.
Oh, it's
Okay.
September. I'm thinking October. I'm sorry.
Nope,
Never
we're in
mind, I'm good.
September. We're
I
not
was
in
going to say, you
October.
start early planning Halloween.
Well, I put it in my calendar as October. I'm thinking, wrong, I'll change it all.
We already
completely.
decorated for Halloween, Kelly, it's okay.
I was thinking ahead, I'm sorry. September 23rd. that's
Okay,
fine.
next, action items, school business. Neil?
Okay, thank you, Seema. First item this evening is the approval of agreements with the following service providers. First is Charlton School / Ketchum Grande Memorial School, Crossroads Center for Children, Greenberg North Castle Union Free School District, Living Resources Corporation, Parsons Child and Family Center, and Spotted Zebra Learning Center.
Can I have a motion to approve the service agreements? Judy, second Gloria. Any questions or comments?
So we're backdating the Spotted Zebra one? That says summer of 2020.
Yeah, they don't always get us the agreements in time,
To
so
vote.
we have to sometimes reach out to them to get the agreements and
Okay.
going. But it's a school that we have used over the years.
I
historically.
recognize the name.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0.
Next, we have agreements to make available college and the high school courses for students for college credit during the 2021 school year, and the agreements are with Santa College and SUNY Schenectady Community College.
Can I have a motion to approve the college and the high school agreement? Ben? Second, Barb? Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0.
Next is a recommendation to award the bid for dual-purpose copy paper to WB Mason, the lowest responsible bidder meeting specifications.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the copy paper bid? Judy, second Rebecca. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0.
Okay, and just because it's never too early to start thinking about winter,
2020.
recommendation for award for environmentally friendly ice melt, and the recommendation is to award that to Central Turf and Irrigation, the lowest responsible bidder meeting specifications.
Can I have a motion to approve the ice melt bid? Luciano, second Gloria. Any questions, comments? Winter's coming. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0.
Next, we have 3 donations, which we're very happy to receive. First donation is from School Systems Federal Credit Union, and that was for 8 backpacks and school supplies. Next are 200 face shields from Albany, New York PPE and the Schenectady East Rotary Club. And finally, 40 N95 masks for the nurses from Ace Hardware and Slingerlands.
Can I have a motion to approve the donations? Judy, second Rebecca. Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Thank
nice how people can find ways to give back to the community, like the Ace Hardware is particularly nice.
Yeah, thank you for the donations. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0.
And then finally this evening is a recommendation to approve the application for a refund of real property taxes for the 2020-21 school year. This resulted from an error. The property's assessment was lowered, and that inadvertently, due to a clerical error, was not carried forward onto the 2021 rolls. So they were taxed at the higher assessed value and are entitled to a refund.
Can I have a motion to approve the application for refund of real property taxes? Ben? Second Kelly. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0. Thank you, Neil. Next, we have Superintendent Action, Dr. Wiles.
Thank you. The first item is a request to approve our annual plans for building level emergency response. These are the confidential building level emergency response plans that we reviewed in executive session back on August 11th.
Can I have a motion to approve the annual plan? Kelly, second Judy. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0.
My next item is the board's consideration of the creation of 3 new co-curricular clubs and the name change of 2 clubs. So the 3 new ones are the Philosophy and Literature Club, to be run by Mr. Dan McBride, the Black Student Union, that will be led by Mr. Matt Pinchnut, and National Art Honor Society by Mr. Pieko. And then the 2 clubs that wish to change their names, Dance Squad would henceforth like to be known as Dance Team, And the Youth Activation Committee would like to be renamed Students for Inclusion.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the clubs and the name change clubs? Kelly? Second, Gloria? Any questions or comments?
Barbara just jumped off, just so you know.
She just jumped off?
Yeah, I don't
She
know.
said she would. So it'll be 8, so it's 8. 8-0, she didn't vote.
Oh, okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 8-0.
My next item is the annual recertification of the qualified lead evaluator for building principals, and that would be me. That would qualify me to do the APPR for documents for our building principals.
Can I have a motion to approve the lead evaluator for APPR? Gloria, second, Judy. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Still 8.
Okay,
Oh.
passes 8-0. Thank you, Demian.
And then my last item for this evening, this is the recertification of qualified lead evaluators for our teachers, and this is to complete the APPR process for all of our certified teachers, and this would name all of our building principals and Lisa Knowles as certified, qualified lead evaluators.
Can I have a motion to approve the certification of qualified lead evaluators for teachers? Ben? Second, Luciano? Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 8-0. Thank you, Dr. Wiles. Next, board president action. I have one item on the agenda. This is a district-wide safety team appointment. And so you can see on your attachment there, the printout, the list of people, and the board of ed rep would be Blanca. Can I have a motion to approve the district-wide safety team appointments? Ben, second, Kelly. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 8-0. Okay, next, board committee reports. We'll start with audit.
Our meeting is scheduled for the 23rd at 8 a.m., I think.
Okay, thanks, Ben. And communications.
We have a meeting scheduled on September 30th.
Thanks,
We've not met
Rebecca. Policy. Oh, is Barb in charge of policy, or you, Ben?
We have a meeting scheduled for the 23rd at 4:30.
Busy day.
Board day, the 23rd.
Yeah, full-time job back there.
And which group am I forgetting? Oh, business practices.
Our meeting had to be
It
postponed.
moved back a little bit, so soon.
And it will be
It hasn't changed.
with the contractors? I mean, is that?
To be with our architects.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Possibly construction management for.
No date yet.
No date.
Okay.
TBD.
Yep.
And next, public comment number 2. Linda, did anybody else send a public comment? No. Oh, I just wanted to make a note about public comment. I forgot to at the beginning. If people want to have a public comment for our meetings when we don't have people here in person, then just write public comment in the subject of your email so we know that you want us to read it out loud for public comment. If you don't write that in there, we'll assume that that's not for public comment and we won't read it out loud. Last, board issues, ideas, and sharing. Judy?
I just have a question. Regan, did we get a list, and I assume we did, and I just didn't see it, of the people who are getting the recognition awards? And if we didn't, can you send us one?
Yes.
Okay, and that will be at our next meeting, right?
Correct.
Okay, and retirees, are we going to do anything who left in June or who left over
We did the
summer?
retirees at the end of last year. We did a remote recognition.
Okay, yeah. And then we had some over the summer, and they'll be in next year?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, the ones that take place in the summertime, we've let them know of the potential date. Obviously, we don't know what it will look like quite yet, but hoping not what it looked like in June. But, yep, we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gloria?
I got to virtually attend the FMS PTA meeting last night. And I bring it up because there were lots of questions, which was great. People were typing in questions, and Mike Laster was fielding all these questions, and Matt Ball was fielding questions. But a lot of comments by parents were really so positive, so grateful. I mean, they were just so grateful to the district for how smooth things were and how happy their kids were, that it just made me so thrilled to be sitting there listening.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
To tag team onto that, I think if we want to look at like some of the positive aspects of COVID, and they're not many, is that remote PTA meetings have really drawn out people.
Numbers,
parents.
yes.
And it's really been a forum to increase participation.
Yeah.
So I think that's been really helpful.
I'll jump off that too. I just want to thank everybody because the beginning of the school year, I've never felt like such a team mentality and positivity, and I would say even the questions that people ask, I would, if I was administrator, I would probably be frustrated, but I've never noticed like anybody getting frustrated with all the questions and actually being really open to answering questions, so that is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
And aren't we lucky to have people and to have a district office that could somehow get this all together, that seemed to please almost everybody, which is certainly hard to do. So thank you.
Any other issues, ideas, or sharing?
I have an idea. So on a more somber note, so Mark Banovic passed away, and I think all of us were deeply saddened by that. He definitely had a profound impact on our community. So my thought is that, if possible, could we create like a memorial scholarship in his name with the family's approval for a student in the district? Is that a possibility?
So I know, I don't have all the details yet, but the soccer boosters have started putting together something very much like that, because I know the middle school was also thinking about it. So I think we might want to explore what they're doing so we're not competing with another organization.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, that's great. It's wonderful to hear that they're doing that.
I get unsolicited emails, like, I want to send money in his name. So it's really touching. Yeah.
Thank you, Luciano.
Marie, when we have more details on what they're working on, we'll share it at a meeting so that the public knows how they can participate.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. I know I talked with Mike Laster ever so briefly about it earlier this week. So we'll get that together.
Good idea, Ben. Blanca, did you have a comment?
Yeah. I just wanted to echo gratitude to our administrators and our staff. And I'm speaking now as a parent of two remote learners. I think that really amazing strides have been made since the spring, and I no longer have the concerns that I had in the spring, and I'm not faulting anyone, that happened out of nowhere. So I just want to say thank you. I know that literally all the teachers and principals were working up until the last minute and through Labor Day, and you can really see that a lot of effort's been put in. I have one suggestion as a nurse. I have noticed a difference between both of my kids. One gets breaks during the day to take a stretch, and the other one only seems to get a lunch break. So I think it's just important to emphasize that kids probably shouldn't be at the screen without breaks for so long. So it's just my 2 cents as a nurse, but it's really been very engaging, and there's been a lot of activity. So I'm really pleased with the way things are going.
Any other issues, ideas, or sharing? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Don't forget to fill out your evaluation form.
Yes, please fill out the evaluation form. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Gloria? Second, Rebecca? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 8-0. Thank you, everybody.
See you.